In preparation for the new season, I wanted to take some precautions against pests. When I removed some of the dying plants that were from last season, I discovered some tiny little white mites on the roots of the plant. After doing a little bit of research, I found out that they're called mealybugs. So I asked someone at a local garden shop, and they told me a way to rid the soil of some of those pests is to pour boiling water over the soil. I was also very conscious of it destroying any beneficial life and ecosystems already existing in the soil. I found worms in my garden, I found little beetles and other bugs. A lot of things call my garden their home. So I made sure to till the soil beforehand to check to see if there were any worms or bugs or anything like that that I could scare off. Here we go. I have a problem. It seems like every time I try and solve a problem in the garden, another thing pops up. Now, obviously that's to be expected. I can't foresee every major issue that's gonna happen before it happens. The pest problem sucks, yeah, but hopefully we took care of them. I think with the boiling water, they won't be coming back anytime soon. But what do I do about the stunted growth? Is that because of the pest? Is that because of the watering schedule? What is that? It seems, at its most basic level, I want my plants to grow bigger. I want them to produce more fruit. I want them to produce more vegetables. And I don't really know what I'm doing that's stopping that. For example, my kale. I got my kale last year. That was about 3 months ago now. And they're the same size as when I got them from the nursery. They haven't grown at all. And I don't know if that's because of the pests or if that's because of the sunlight. I'm kind of just stumped. Excuse me. I mean, when I think about what I need to survive, there's some foundational baseline things that everybody needs. Water, shelter, food. And I feel like I give my plants the same things. I give them a place to live, I give them water, I give them fertilizer. You know what's funny? I never really thought about my food's food. I mean, getting past photosynthesis and all that jazz, I never really stopped to think about what nutrients plants actually need. Sun translates to sugar through photosynthesis, but then what the heck is fertilizer? Is that like plant steroids? Why is every fertilizer different? A big part of this week is figuring that out. Now, from what I've learned, the start to every fertilizer is the NPK ratio. That's nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. That seems to be the food that plants need. Now, nitrogen seems to be responsible for the green of the plant, making sure that the leaves grow really strongly and healthily. Nitrogen is responsible for building some of the proteins in the plant and contributes to the production of chlorophyll. Good, easy, right? You fool. It sounds simple enough. But then what happens when a plant isn't mostly leaves? What happens when your plant is a flower? Phosphorus supports bigger blooms, flowering, and seed germination and formation. Potassium helps plants absorb water and nutrients. These seem to be the Holy Trinity. NPK. I guess I'm just curious why we need fertilizer at all. Is fertilizer cheating? Or is it a tool? When plants grow in nature, where does the food come from? Does it all come from the soil that it's planted in? Does it come from the rain that comes down? Why is it that I seemingly have to add fertilizer to plants when they seem to do fine on their own? But then again, I've never seen a tomato plant out in the wild. As I'm starting to learn more about fertilizers, it seems like it's really important to continuously feed the plant throughout its life cycle. And that's something that I'm responsible for, right? The plant can't go anywhere, so I have to be the one to give it the nutrients and give it the support that it needs. Although it's still a little bit confusing, I think I'm ready to start sifting through some fertilizers online and see if there's something that I can use for my garden. Okay. The problem is that there's so many different fertilizers to choose from. Get your garden growing big with our liquid concentrate fertilizer. Plant size and structure. It's the perfect fertilizer for organic gardening and bud development. Supports multiple blooms and seed formations. Feed once per week. Use twice a week. Use during every other watering. This seems complicated, but maybe I'm making it more complicated than it has to be. At the end of the day, fertilizer is fertilizer, and I just have to choose if I want organic fertilizer or chemical fertilizer. It sounds like chemical fertilizers are faster and cheaper, but I also read that they can burn plants if you add too much fertilizer. So my gut is telling me to try and find organic fertilizers, or at least to use mostly organic fertilizers. Some people use worm castings. You can use seaweed. This person says to fertilize your garden, bury a fish carcass under the soil. Yep. Another big thing for me to be thinking about is how I'm going to do all of this. My whole garden right now is set up on a drip irrigation. Those are those plastic tubes running through the garden. And as far as I know, I can't put fertilizer in there because it's connected to the hose. It's connected to the water line. I think I have an idea of what fertilizers I want. So I think now I just need to go to the store, pick one, and then give it a try. See if I see any improvements over the next couple weeks. It's 5 inches. 6 inches. The onions look okay. Except I'm not exactly sure when I planted them. A couple months ago, I planted some carrot seeds in the garden. And it wasn't until just recently that I realized that I had forgotten to keep track of how long they'd been growing. It seems like a simple thing that I should have remembered, but here we are with these carrots, and I have no idea how long they've been in the ground. I figured, since I don't know how long they've been in the ground, they're probably all wilted and dry, and I planted them for nothing. And I've kind of been dreading it ever since. So today I figured I would just admit my defeat and go clear out that space in the garden. This is the first time I've ever grown a carrot that looks like an actual carrot. But I was so surprised when I pulled out the carrot and it was actually a carrot. There's a lot of moments where it feels like I've failed. There's a lot of moments where it seems like I've overlooked something or I haven't paid close enough attention to make something work. But small successes and surprises like this bring me a lot of joy. I think the more and more I learn about gardening as a craft, the more I realize that a big part of it is planning. One of the reasons I wanted to take gardening more seriously in the first place this year is because of how things went last year. And although it was a really great start, I definitely felt like there were a bunch of things where I had no idea what I was doing. So that's my goal this year. I want to figure those things out. I want to at least know the answers to some of those questions. So far in the garden, we've taken out some old plants, we've gotten some new ones, we have new seeds, there's a lot of change going on. And I want to do what I can to take advantage of that. So my big goal is to fully map out the spring season of crops that I want to plant. I want to have it drawn out, I want to have it written down, what times I start the seeds, how often I water them, what kind of fertilizer they need, how much light they need. Those are all really important things to consider for your plants. And since plants have their own individual needs, you need to account for those differently. So I feel like it's going to be super important for me to write down those things and to keep track of them. I'm just really excited to see what improvements I can make off of last year. But thanks for joining me this week. I'll see you next time.